Yeah.
That's the one. Uh, Wonderful. So here we are, Mindful Monday meditation. Bit of meditation, quite a bit of meditation, a little bit of learning because we're going to be looking at some more of the Reiki stuff. And well, hopefully everyone will enjoy. But let's begin as we always begin by having a stretch. It's hard work watching someone horse ride. Have a stretch. I'll tell you, my legs were aching by the end of it. Um, have a stretch, have a fidget, get ourselves comfortable. And in a moment, we'll start by taking 3 deep breaths together. And you may choose to relax and close your eyes on the first breath. Just realize everyone knows kind of how this scripting works now. You may choose to close your eyes on the second breath and relax, or you may choose to relax and close your eyes on the third breath. But whenever you choose to close your eyes and relax, I know you can get the most out of today's session. So let's begin. Taking a deep breath in, hold it, and breathing out. Taking a deep breath in, hold it, and breathe out. Taking a deep breath in, hold it, and breathe out. If you've not done so already, just allowing your eyes to gently close, just in the time that you need to take to let go, to relax, to unwind. And there's nothing to do, just relax. The more you relax, the better you can feel, and the better you feel, the more you can relax. Now, with each and every breath, and tell yourself, I am going to relax. I am going to meditate. Everyday thoughts will not distract me. Everyday sounds will not disturb me. It all just helps me go deeper. That's right. Just returning to your natural breath. And in a moment, I'm going to count down from 10 to 1. As I do that, your body can relax. And I don't know where you'll begin to notice that relaxation first. But wherever that is, you can allow it to continue to invite it to flow and move around the whole body. At the same time as counting down from 1, I'm going to count up from 1 to 10. And as I do that, you can just allow your mind to become lighter and freer. And at a certain point, it can just drift out of the humdrum of every day, rising up to a place of calm or peace, a more relaxed state of mind. That's 10. Relaxing, softening any tensions. 1. Allowing the mind to drift, to become lighter, freer, rising up. 9. Drifting down, relaxing through time and space. 2. Everyday thoughts, worries, cares, concerns, and tensions that would have held you back from relaxing more. You just let go of them now. The mind becomes lighter and freer. 8. From the tips of the toes to the top of the head, I wonder where relaxation begins to flow from now. 3. Heavy emotions, stresses and tensions just melting away as the mind becomes freer, rising up. 7. Letting go. 4. And the mind can float up, rising up to a place of stillness, peace. I wonder how that feels for you. Stillness and peace. 6 to 5. Every tension in the body softening as you relax. And I'll continue to count from 5 to 1. As I do that, you can continue to relax. And you may choose to relax down into that chair, or you may choose to just let go and drift down into that chair. But however you choose to relax down into that chair now, you can continue to do so easily and effortlessly, because there's nothing to do. Just relax. That's 5. Arms, the legs, shoulders and back, softening and relaxing. 4. Drifting, floating, easing and letting go. 3. With every breath you take, breathing in peace, breathing out tension. 2. That's right. Just relax. 1. And as your body can continue relaxing, with every word I speak, every breath you take, I will start to count from 5 up to 10, completing that count. The mind can become lighter and freer. 5 to 6, stresses, strains, worries and concerns of the day just drift away, far away, rising up. 7, heavy emotions, worries, just letting go. The mind floats, free. 8, imagine the sun rising at dawn, out of the shadows of night, that beautiful, warm, glowing, radiant light. As it appears in the sky, you reach and you take it in your hand. It's about the size of a tennis ball. You place it at the very center of your being, where it starts to glow even brighter than that. And that light starts filling your body, pushing out every stress, every worry, every tension. They form like clouds, grey clouds on the chest. But that light, that radiance within you is getting so bright now, it's pushing those clouds of worry and stress up through the body, up through the neck, up to the base of the jaw, up through the head till they reach the top of the head. And as that light from that sun gets so bright, it fills your body now, pushing every last trace of those clouds of worry and stress out of your body, up into the sky. Notice how far out they go, up into the sky, out into space, into deep space where they pass a black hole. Anything that enters a black hole is never felt, seen, or experienced again, and you can watch now as Those clouds of negativity, stress, worry are just swallowed up by that black hole, never to be felt, never to be seen, never experienced again. 9. A moment of stillness and clarity. 10. A moment of enlightenment. That's right. I wonder what is that, and more so, that allows you now to relax there and every place that is now like that, and so much more relaxing. In a moment, I'll count from 1 to 5. 1 is where you are now. 5 can be eyes open, feeling relaxed, centered, ready to take on board some learning and to do some more meditation. That's 1, drifting back. 2, just in the time. 3, that you need to take for you to feel good and get the most out of the rest of this session. 5, and when you're fully back, you can have a stretch, have a fidget, feel good. There we go. You can see everyone's back. Fabulous. So I'm going to do, we can go deeper, but I'm not going to today. Have I unmuted myself? Yeah, that's all right. Um, that would be a crying shame. Going to look at another Reiki meditation. The idea is that we build them all up. Traditionally, these would be practiced daily and in the morning and in the evening. Not to scare anyone away, but this is like just the second meditation that would be taught. And we tend to, the purpose, this meditation alone can help us connect with our true self. However, if we're only doing 10 or 20 minutes a day, you're never really going to get that deep into your journey of yourself. Traditionally, it was done for at least an hour, but up to 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening. I kind of guess you don't have kids or family if you're putting that amount of time into the practice. Um, or maybe they're all there doing it with you, in which case, how peaceful would your evenings be? Um, anyway, we'll get on to that exercise in a moment. So, at the heart of Reiki, anyway, are the 5 Reiki precepts. There are 5 branches, should I say, altogether of Reiki. You have the precepts, the meditations, healing, first of all, ourselves. And healing, by healing ourselves, we mean working on ourselves until we connect with and discover our true self. When we come to help other people from that place of our true self, healing happens naturally. But healing doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I got better. Healing doesn't mean kind of they were sick and now they're not. The true heart of Reiki is once you've uncovered your true self, is that through working with other people, you help them uncover their true self, which is very different to how we're taught it more in the West, which focus mainly just on the one aspect of it, which is the healing. But that would be like sitting down with a whole Jamaican ginger cake cutting off the end and saying you knew the whole thing and you'd ate it, when really there's three-quarters of a cake still to like explore and investigate, because you need to make sure it tastes as good as the rest, don't you? You know what I mean? Um, so we've got the healing self first, then others. We've got symbols and mantras, and we also have the Reiju, which is a spiritual blessing, which became and evolved into the attunements that you kind of pay lots and lots of money for in Britain to have. Um, you actually never need to have an attunement in Reiki at all. You just need to practice it lots. Reiju was done weekly at your lesson, and it was the way the lesson was finished. And in the same way, in some ways, at the end of a church service, the priest will do a blessing on everyone. At the end of his teaching sessions, every session, Sui, the father of Reiki, would do a Reiju, which wasn't an attunement. It was just him channeling energy into his students to give them a bit of a boost before they went off into the world to practice. Um, like I say, we only kind of really focus on 1/5 of the overall system, um, which means you can't be a Reiki master unless you're actually working the whole system, because you're not working the whole system, you're not really working Reiki. Um, if you think about like driving a car, we've got if you take it five components, there's observation, acceleration, braking, steering, and changing gear. But if you only do one of those, if you're in the car and you only observe, you're not going anywhere. If you only accelerate without braking, you're in trouble. If you're accelerating and braking but not bothering to steer, you're in trouble. And if you're changing gear, if you don't change gear, if you ignore your gears, eventually you're going to burn that clutch out. So you to know the whole system, you need to work regularly with the whole system. Um, so the meditation element, we've all done meditation, but it is actually first and foremost, Reiki is a meditation practice. Whatever aspect we're working with, Sui gives strict instructions and very specific instructions which make up the complete system. Um, Another thing is nowadays, and I'm not saying there's no value in it, you go out and you can find angel Reiki, you can find, I'm making titles up, Donald Trump Reiki, there are so many different types of Egyptian Reiki and this, that, and the other. But the system of Reiki, when Asui started teaching it, was a complete system already. It didn't ever need anything adding to it. It was a complete system, a spiritual system for uncovering and connecting with your true self. One part aspect of which was the healing, and the other bits that we've talked about. Um, like I say, the healing isn't necessarily um, in Reiki. It's not. It's about you healing to the point where you connect with your true self, stripping back the layers, and then when you're working with that energy with other people, it's about helping them peel back the layers, because true healing comes when we hit the true self, when we discover the true self. Healing in Reiki doesn't mean someone gets better. If somebody's really suffering and terminally ill, Reiki can actually mean it helps them pass peacefully, because that is the most kind, compassionate, and healing thing you could do for that person. And that's another thing that sometimes people don't like to emphasize or talk about, that actually sending energy to somebody who's terminally ill isn't necessarily going to miraculously heal them, but it can ease the final stages of their passing so they go peacefully, which is a blessing and a gift in itself. Um, the symbols and the mantras, there's a lot of store put in the power of the Reiki symbols. They are, when Asui first created, and I will say created them, they were taken from Japanese language. They literally are an aid to meditation. He found that Asui's initial students were nuns, very much used to meditation and deep spiritual focus. When he started teaching outside that circle to people like doctors, he found that people struggled more with the meditational sides of it and focusing or holding on to an idea. So he created the symbols and put the symbols together later on, after he'd been teaching it for a while, literally to help people focus on an idea, or like we've done in I meditate in the past, where you can focus. If you're doing a meditation, you might choose to use a candle to help you focus, or you might have a circle with a dot in the middle of it, or you might, if you're religious or spiritual, you might have a cross that you meditate on, or um, you have the mandala. A mandala in itself doesn't have power, but it helps you build and develop your focus. And that's what the Reiki symbols are. They are symbols that, yes, they have meaning, but they're there purely to help you focus on that symbol and that meaning, which means, because if you're doing healing and your mind drifts off and starts thinking about the coffee and I'm going to say ginger cake again because it's in my mind, the coffee and the ginger cake you're going to be having later, you've stopped healing. Your attention is not with that person. And although with Reiki, when you're channeling energy, you step back and you don't direct it. You cannot direct Reiki energy. You can't go, that person's got a knee, has broke their arm, they need healing. Because the other thing with Reiki is it's completely unconditional, which means you do not judge in Reiki. And the moment you go, right, that person needs healing on their arm, you're judging that person, even though that might seem like a good thing. But the Reiki energy is a divine energy. It's a universal energy. It knows where it needs to go. The body knows where it needs to go best. So we might think that the arm needs, yes, it needs that bruising to come out. Let's send some energy into it. And actually, that might not be what that person needs for healing. So it takes a huge responsibility off the practitioner if you're ever practicing with it, but you do not direct it. The moment you start saying, I'm sending this energy to something, your ego is getting in the way. You're going, I can control the power of the universe, which you can't. Uh, so, um, but it's good because all you have to do is make that connection, have that energy flowing, and hold that attention. And that's why we have the symbols and the mantras in Reiki, to help us build up that level of focus where you can hold that for, say, an hour, where you're just literally in the zone, channeling that energy, and nothing distracts you. The moment you're distracted, the energy is not going where it's not going anywhere. And then there's the Reiju, which I said is it's like an energetic blessing. It was given at the end of Asui's sessions every week, as a way of finishing off the session. Um, you can do it for yourself. That's what a lot of the meditations build up to, is the fact that you do it for yourself. So we're going to have a quick look at the precepts. Now, when the precepts are taught, we're given for today only, and they vary slightly, but the sentiment is usually the same behind them. Um, for today only, do not anger, do not worry, be grateful, be true to your way and your being, show compassionate passion to yourself and others. For today only is one of the most powerful things and state ways to start a sentence. You can, thinking about hypnosis and that. Um, you get somebody who's maybe, I don't know, got an addiction, and they're thinking of having to give up that addiction for the rest of their lives. That's huge. If you're addicted to something, you've got to give it up there and then. That's huge. For the rest of my life, can't see that happening. Just for today, don't do it. Suddenly, suddenly that whole task becomes a lot simpler. It's that how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Uh, and And it's that same with that. For today makes it about now. It makes it about our awareness of ourselves in any one moment. So for today, do not anger. Anger will stop the flow of energy. It's also not good for our energy, and it can cause problems. We're not going to go into these in too much detail, but who feels good when they're angry? Or who feels good after they've been angry? No one. Um, Do not worry. And I remember Donna talking about, she spoke to me about Reiki. I can't remember if it was in a group thing or when it was all just chatting. And she was like, oh, I did my Reiki a couple of years ago, but I haven't done it because this happened and I've been thinking about this. And I'm like, do not worry. The do not worry aspect of Reiki is have faith, trust in life, trust in, because Reiki isn't just a way mode of healing, it's a way of living your life. It's a way of interacting with the world. So do not anger, do not worry, be grateful. And there isn't a spiritual tradition alive that doesn't say, I hate the phrase, have an attitude of gratitude. And our lives do change when we start focusing on the small things that we're grateful for. Be true to your way and your being. To do that, you have to know what you're about, and that's the journey of Reiki, is discovering your true self, because then you can be true to yourself, and show compassion. It also says be honest in your work in some places, and that just means about bringing all that you are to everything you do, and show compassion to yourself and others, because that's the love one another, which again is echoed through most. And I think I said last time, but Usui developed the Reiki system to preserve certain traditions and practices that were being outlawed at the time in Japan. Um, that some say when Reiki was first brought over to America, they said he was a Christian. He wasn't, because to be a Christian in Usui's time was illegal, um, and you would end up in prison or dead for it at that period in Japanese history. So he was a Zen monk, Zen Buddhist. He was also a Shinto practitioner, which is the native Japanese kind of shamanic tradition. And there was only there was state authorized Buddhism and one other practice which I can't remember, which were allowed. Everything else was you're not allowed to do it. And so he kind of wanted to preserve the essence of it. So he stripped out a lot of the religion and the things that made it identifiable as such, and created a practice that kept the essence of it, i.e., the meditations and the goals and purposes. Which is why Reiki can sit next to pretty well any spiritual practice or any religious practice, as if people are open-minded enough, because it's not religious or specific of any tradition, spiritually or religious in itself. Um, so that's those. But that's how they're given in the West. The actual precepts is a lot bigger and a lot longer. By that, I mean than what I've just given you. So this is, and I'm not going to do, I tried to do the Japanese version before, I'm not doing that now. The full statement of the Reiki precepts and the foundation on which Reiki is built is this: invite blessings of secret method, 10,000 illnesses of spiritual medicine. Today only anger not, worry not, gratitude do, practice diligently, people to kindness be. This is direct English translation from the Japanese, not actually. Um, Morning and evening, Gassho, which is the practice we're going to look at today, perform. Mind too, pray silently. So actually, prayer is also part of Reiki. Mouth at, chant do, which basically means practice the mantras and speak them out loud. Uh, Mind and body improve. So if you do these things, your mind and body will improve. So not only do we have the do not anger, do not worry, be grateful bit in that, we also have how to apply it to our everyday lives. Um, so spiritual medicine of 10,000 blessings. In Taoism, Buddhism, 10,000 things is often used as a way of saying everything, all things in creation, infinite number of things. So by following the precepts, we uncover the spiritual medicine of infinite illnesses. Otherwise saying, the precepts cut to the root of all illness. The precepts are a description of our true selves, which is pointed out in level 3 of your Reiki training normally. The true self is emptiness. In the culture that Asui was coming from, the true self is seen as emptiness, non-duality, and the spiritual medicine of the 10,000 illnesses. When we realize the true self, we have to cut the roof off. We cut the roof off, the roof, the root of all our illnesses. And at this point, we become free. illnesses isn't necessarily meaning a stomach bug. It's talking about those spiritual illnesses. The in a modern day, if you stripped out of all this, it would be our behaviors, our beliefs that hold us back and stop us living fully. Um, the precepts illuminate a path towards the true self. If you practice these practices daily and make it part of your life, and that take the precepts as how you deal with life, you are you're basically on a path to realization of the true self, which is basically enlightenment in Buddhism. Um, it says secret, but it's not that it's hidden. Um, because actually to pass on the teachings to other people and share it with people is an act of true compassion. Secret because the true self is so close, we don't actually often see it. We're too busy looking outward, and when we start to focus within, we begin to discover the inner secret about our true selves. Today only, I've covered that. Going to do that. Morning and evening, perform gasho. I'm never sure. Gasho, if you want to spell it. I'm never quite sure how you quite pronounce it. This is direct instruction from Usui. You wake up in the morning, you do your meditation. We're going to look at that meditation today. And then in the evening, you do it. Um, some, and what you also meant to do is recite the precepts whilst you're doing it. So you're doing it and you're reciting the precepts. Quite often in modern training, we're told to recite them just 3 times. And I've looked at trainings where they go. Um, but back when we did, let's go back a bit now, we did mantras. If you chant Om 3 times, is that going to open you up to the universe? Is its deep resonance going to work through your body? I have to sometimes repeat things 3 times because Fee hasn't quite heard me. Three is not a big number of times to be doing this. If you're practicing the precepts, if you take this practice on board, give it decent and to really start embodying the precepts, because with Reiki you go for a point where you stop practicing. You don't stop practicing, but the practice becomes part of who you are. But that takes time. Like anything, when we see somebody that's a master in something, it's because usually they've dedicated their whole life to it. And if you ask them, are they a master? They'd go, no, there's still so much to learn. But when we see them do their things, I remember seeing at Park in the Past last year, a guy doing a pottery demonstration. And this guy was a master with his hands and the clay and the way it was amazing. But he spent all his life doing it. Um, but ideally, this meditation practice should be done for 20 to 45 minutes in the morning and 20 to 45 minutes in the evening. Um, we covered position in that last time. Keep in your mind, that part of it is keep in your mind the precepts. So not just when you're practicing your meditation, but throughout the day, refreshing yourself, reminding yourself of those precepts, and kind of structuring your life so you're living by what they're teaching. So if you find yourself worrying, you kind of go, no, I'm not worrying today, because when we worry, we're dissipating energy. We're dissipating energy unnecessarily. Um, Chant with your mouth. Um, yeah, if you're chanting, do it out loud. Don't do it quietly or silently to yourself. Doesn't mean you sit there shouting it, but you want to be able to hear it, because the idea of sound is it's resonant, and so that resonance helps with our focus. It helps with our attention, helps shift our consciousness. Um, and then improve your mind body. That part of the precepts actually means bringing mind and body into harmony. Through daily dedication of practice, and that can happen with any practice. Um, so let's see, and I'm going to come back to this again. Asui created a complete system, and in the third, in when he used to teach what became the third level, and it's mentioned in the third level of Reiki now. He never had grades or levels. You just turned up to class, and if you did your homework, you got to move on. And if you were lazy, you didn't. And that was it. Um, but he actually states, do not add anything into this system because this system is balanced and works within itself. So when you see other things that the moment you add something into Reiki, like I'm going to say Egyptian because I did a course which was a Egyptian something or other Reiki, and they added all these extra symbols and these rituals that they'd brought in from ancient papyrus, apparently. But the moment you do that, you're not practicing Reiki because Reiki is just the simplicity of the original system. You're practicing some weird amalgamate Egyptian thing, but it's not actually Reiki anymore, according to the guy who created the system. Um, so that's an overview of that. I'm not going to go through the history because that's just mammoth. I'm not going to teach you the precepts in Japanese, um, although I'll put them in the group if you want to see what they are. Um, so we'll go into the practice. I think, yeah, let's do that. So this is one of the main practices of Reiki. It's one of the first things you would learn from a Sui if he were teaching you. He's up there somewhere, isn't he? I don't know where he is. I think he's over there at the moment. I move them all around, you see. Don't want to get him too familiar being where they are. Um, so again, ideally 20 to 45 minutes for this practice a day. 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. Realistically, I know most people aren't going to do that. Most people aren't going to do that. Fee pointed out to me that she finds me kind of the odd. What she say? You're the weirdest bloke I've ever known. And it's like, why? And she said, well, most blokes kind of mess around with cars, like football and whatever, and wouldn't dream of kind of getting up at 6 o'clock every morning to do an hour's worth of meditation and stuff, and having a session in the evening, and she doesn't see the session during the day as well. So apparently that's not normal. In fact, but hey, um, so yeah. But I mean, if you do 20 minutes of this a day, that's great. It's something that we've looked at it in a different context um, when we did the mudras, so it will be familiar. But the practice is first of all has is not about achieving anything. Do not have in mind a goal with this practice. Yeah. Don't think, oh, I'm doing this because I've got to achieve enlightenment. Do not think I'm doing this because I've got to transcend cosmic alignments with Jupiter. Whatever you think, there is have no sense of achievement or where you should be going with this because that will get in the way. Um, I will say that after a little while of practicing this, you can notice, what's the word term to use? Energetic phenomenon. Let's make it sound kind of clever. Um, so you may notice or sense the flow of energy in the body after a while with this. You may notice what originally was introduced to me as I've only ever been interested in it once. It referred to this, the tickling of the ant. Has anyone ever come across that phrase before, the tickling of the ant? It happens not just in this practice, but can quite often happen in meditation, especially if you're doing quite a lot, is you start getting a little tingle thing just here that feels like it's going round and round. And the first time I read about it, was introduced to it, it was described as the tickling of the ant because it feels like there's something crawling along and around on your head here. But that's just one of the energy centers kind of doing its thing and moving, and you're just becoming aware of it. But it does feel a little bit like an ant tickling. The other thing you can feel is the flow of energy through the palms, which in Reiki healing is kind of one of the main areas you channel from. Although in Reiki healing you can channel through the hands, through the eyes, and through the breath. So there's three different ways of applying healing in Reiki. That's when you're working on others. So you may feel a flow of energy, not instantly. You might do if you've, I know with some of us have done Reiki before. So you can, you probably will, but you can sometimes notice that flow. The more you do it, the more that will build up. And that's part of the idea of it. Um, so this is Gasso. We're sitting correctly. We did that last time, which is it's not just about posture is relaxed. It's not forced. We're comfortably sitting into ourselves. We're making sure any time before we practice that our mind is settled. If your mind is all blur, do some box breathing. That's probably box breathing is great for settling the mind, you know. Um, so once you get your mind settled, you get your mind relaxed, and we bring our hands up like this, ding, sitting in front of the chest. And we focus our entire intention on that point where the two middle fingers touch. And the aim of this is to not let that attention move, to not allow the attention to go anywhere. If your attention drifts, you bring it back and you focus back on your fingertips. Like I say, it's not about achieving anything. We relax into it. If we drift, we return back to that focus point. I will say, when I first started doing this, if you're not used to it, can get uncomfortable after about 5 minutes. Um, and obviously, I'm with the Taoists when it comes to some meditation schools say that if, all you've got to sit there and ride the pain out, but you're not meditating if all you're doing is going, oh, bloody hell, my ankles, my wrists are hurting, you know. So if you need to break it's better to do 5 minutes where you're really focused and slowly build up than it is to say, oh, right, I've got to do 20 minutes. Because if you're not used to it, 20 minutes like this, it makes things ache. Um, and the moment you're focusing on the aching, you're not focusing on your fingertips. So I'm not going to expect you to remember 5 precepts. So I will put those in the group because it is part of this. Um, so what we're going to do as a practice for this one, there's a couple of things going on. If you go back to my hands are red hot and tingly, yeah, they do. It's one of those things where, especially because I know you've done Reiki stuff as well, haven't you, Sally? So, the other thing with Reiki as well, if you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to put some of these meditations into practice, because it is a wonderful way of working on yourself. Um, is that if other people start talking Reiki, suddenly you start noticing kind of the energy flowing and stuff, which is always quite amusing. Um, Even sometimes you'll notice it and you'll go, who here does Reiki? Because there'll be somebody, you can guarantee there'll be somebody else there does it. When we do this, we're also, as well as we're connecting so energy can flow, but we're also balancing left and right sides of the brain. And it's a form of reverence, an expression of gratitude. And it creates an unending harmony by bringing the left side and the right side of the body together. So the basic practice is this relaxed breathing, nothing fancy breathing wise and focusing. We're going to do it in a minute. Um, is this once you get used to that, you can then bring in the mantras. You can use the five precepts and just recite them over and over and over again. Or there's other later on in Reiki, there's certain words that you can repeat. Um, Again, they don't have power in themselves. It's what they're focusing your mind on and tuning you into that way. But for now, we will do the basic standard version of it. So, good grief, there was a lot there. I do apologize. That was that's not as much as is written. That was condensed. So that's let's have a fidget. Let's get back to doing or not doing. Remember, nothing to achieve. It says that, but then realistically, you're trying to achieve 5 minutes to start off with of complete focus on your fingertips. Um, but that's it. So we make sure we're comfortable. We're not forcing anything. And you can, there's two ways, this is a traditional Japanese meditation posture. And there's two ways you can do it. You can do it with your eyes closed, or if you have your eyes just slightly open and you look down onto the point where your two middle fingers touch, like that. So you can either do it eyes open, eyes closed. If your eyes are open, then you focus your eyes just on the tips of your two middle fingers. It's up to you. Work on. I find with the eyes open and looking down, sometimes it gets a bit pully and achy on the back of my neck. Whereas if I can just sit my head comfortably and hold it, then that's better. So let's do this. Bring the hands up, eyes closed. We'll just do a few minutes. I can join in with this one because I like this. And again, if your attention drifts, just bring it back to the awareness of that point where the two middle fingers touch. And you can either, like I say, look at them gently with eyes slightly open. Just slow, comfortable breathing, nothing forced. And if your mind drifts, bring it back to that point of connection of the two middle fingers. And just continue on. Just a little while longer. Attention to any sensations. Just allow your hands to drift down now, keeping your eyes closed. Continue to just breathe and relax. In your mind's eye, I want you to imagine, picture yourself sat under a beautiful tree. See the things you see, hear the things you hear. Get a sense of what it's like to sit under this wonderful, beautiful tree. And imagine that you're not imagining. Sat there under that tree. And you bring your hands out in front of you and you hold them about a foot apart. And you notice a beautiful ball of light, of energy forming between your hands. I don't know what color that is. That light, that energy that would make a wonderful gift, a truly compassionate gift, a loving, kind gift. But just imagine that there now, as your hands rest. And you notice approaching the tree, someone steps forward, and you realize that it's you, or an aspect of yourself, a part of you that maybe has been struggling, or part of you that's been doing really well. But a part of you stands before you, and I don't know how you do this now, but however you do this, you start sending some of that energy, some of that light from between your hands to that other you, bathing that other you in that light, in that energy, sending that gift of loving kindness to that other you. That's right. Energy regathers and groups between your hands, and that other you steps backwards. And somebody you know, somebody who you either love or really deeply care for, steps forward. And that light, that gift, that loving kindness, that energy flows from between your hands to that other person, wrapping them and filling them with that light, that loving kindness. However you do that now. That's it. And then that light regroups, gathers back between the hands, that energy flowing. And that person steps back. And someone maybe you kind of recognize, maybe it's a face of somebody in a shop. You don't necessarily know who their name, they're an acquaintance, somebody you pass in the street from time to time, maybe quickly say hello to. But they represent not just themselves, but all those friends out in the world that we have yet to meet. All those people we do not know yet. And again, that light, that gift, that loving kindness energy flows from between your hands, wrapping them and enfolding them, filling them with that light and energy. That's right. That energy returns back, flowing and spinning between your hands. That person steps back. Somebody that maybe you find difficult, maybe you've found challenging in the past, steps forward. And again, you allow that energy, that gift, that loving kindness to flow from your hands. However you do that now, wrapping and filling that person with that light, that energy, that loving kindness. That's right. And each of those people come and joins you, connecting, holding hands. That energy, that light, that loving kindness flows from hand to hand, spinning round that group of people faster and faster, creating a circle of light. And I want you to keep spinning that circle of light until it's got so much potential, so much movement, so much flow in it, that if you were try to stop it, you'd find you cannot. Keep it spinning, building and flowing from person to person, creating that circle of light faster and faster, stronger and stronger. In a moment, I'll count from 3 to 1. When I do that, when we get to 1 and only at 1, Let that circle of light flood out from where you're all at, enveloping the whole world with that love and kindness. In three, two, one, now. Imagine the world bathed in that light, that energy, that gift of love and kindness. That's right. And so that light continues to flow and fill the world. And those that joined you return back. You find yourself under a tree, imagining you're imagining a tree. And now imagine you're not imagining, and just imagine that tree. As you just imagine that tree, when you're ready to return back, feeling centered and grounded, ready to embrace the week ahead, to carry that energy and that loving kindness out into the world with you. When you are ready to do that now, then you can return. Feel the tips of your toes, tips of the fingers, give them a wiggle, just coming back. Slowly coming back into your body, ready to feel good. And when you're truly ready to feel good, you can open your eyes. That's it. Be here now. That's wonderful.